Subscribe to get the news the legacy media won't tell you and only the Daily Signal can bring to you.
I think you can see the left try to control the media. They're going to show the first crying female, first crying child, and say how inhumane we are. But they won't talk about 340,000 children that they failed to take care of.
Well, it is my distinct privilege and honor to be joined by Tom Homan. He's the former acting director of ICE and the incoming border czar under the Trump administration. Mr. Homan, thanks for taking the time to be here today.
Thanks for the invite.
Well, I was hearing earlier, we were chatting a little bit in a meeting and hearing you tell a little bit about the story of when Trump called you after the election and said, hey, you need to get back in here and help me secure this border. What did the president say to you when he called you? You'd worked with him before, obviously. You served as that acting director of ICE. What was that conversation?
Well, we've talked all through the campaign, so he knew that if he called on me, I'd take the job. So he knew what the answer was before he even called me. But he called me on Friday night, and we talked about me. I've been complaining about the border for 4 years, so he's given me an opportunity to come back and fix it. So how do you say no to that? So, look, I think President Trump is a game changer. We had the most successful, most secure border in my lifetime under President Trump. And it went from the most secure border to historic illegal immigration. So when he called me, I was ready to go. He didn't have to ask, but he did. And so I immediately said yes. And then we started describing the position and what my responsibilities were. And I said, game in, let's do it. Game on. And a couple of days later, he announced it, and we're ready to go.
Ready to go. Well, one of the first things that you and the president have agreed on that will be a top priority is deportations, and specifically deporting criminal illegal aliens. Though we know that costs a lot of money, right? ICE is going to need money in order to carry those out. And right now we've seen that the Biden administration seems to have really kind of made it almost like their mission to spend as much money as possible before leaving office. What do you expect to find when you get in there on day one? What kind of resources do you think you're going to have available in order to carry out these deportations?
Well, not enough resources to do what I want to do, but we're going to take whatever resources we have. We're going to start on day one, and we're going to start the deportation operation. We're going to secure the border. And we're going to find, look to find over 300,000 children that were smuggled in the country and released by the sponsors. So day one, it starts. We're going to do as much as we can with what we got. And I think Congress will fund us going forward at appropriate level to make sure we answer the mandate given by the American people. Secure border immigration enforcement was the number one issue affecting voters. They want it fixed, so we're going to get it fixed. And so we're going to do everything we can with what we have. And you're right, they're sabotaging us coming in, but it's not going to stop us. We're going to get this done.
Have you been having conversations with members of Congress about the funding that ICE is going to need? Because Congress is pretty used to shifting funds towards CBP, but not as used to raising those funds that ICE needs. Are members pretty open? Yeah,
I've had numerous conversations with people in the House and the Senate. They understand the need for funding. A lot of people complain this is going to be an expensive operation, and it is. But, we're spending much more than that now in perpetuity between, free airline tickets, free hotel rooms, free medical care, what it's done to our school system, what it's done to our, medical and trauma centers and hospitals. And that's in perpetuity. So, yeah, it's going to be an expensive operation, but in the long run, it's going to be a tax savings for American people. And that's the conversation I've been having with members on the Hill. Yeah, it's expensive. We need the money, but guess what? In the long run, it's a cost savings.
Yeah, big bill up front, much cheaper in the long run.
Right.
How quickly do you anticipate deportation starting?
Day one.
Day one.
February 21st. Okay. ICE agents will be out doing their job. We're going to take the handcuffs off ICE and put them on the bad guys. We've been real clear that right out of the gate, we're going to concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats, but no one's off the table. If you're in the United States illegally, you got a problem. And but we realize that we got to do the worst first, and that's what we're going to do.
How do you handle states like California that have put together a slush fund of $25 million in order to provide legal services to illegal aliens to help them avoid deportation?
Well, they're not going to stop us from doing our job. It's just going to make it harder. It's going to be less efficient. It's going to be more costly to do a job in the sanctuary city. I still find it amazing because, like I just said, we're going to concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats. I don't know how any elected representative, whether you're a mayor or a city or governor, we want to push back on removing public safety threats from your communities and making communities safer. I thought that was their number one responsibility, protection of the communities. So look, they can put up many roadblocks they want. We're going to get this job done. It'll be harder to do it, but we're going to do it. So we're not afraid of hard work. It's more important we protect the national security of this nation and take public safety threats off the street. How many more young women have to be raped and murdered and burned alive before this country wakes up? The left side of the country wakes up and realizes that this isn't a bad thing. This is about enforcing the law and protecting our public safety.
I think a lot of people don't realize that this conversation really also is about protecting the lives of those migrants and ensuring that those who have been exploited by the cartels are no longer exploited.
And that's what people need to understand. Illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. Studies have been done where 1/3 of the women that make that journey through cartels get sexually assaulted. 1/3 admitted it. So how many is the actual number, right? We know aliens die on the border every day. A historic number of aliens have died under the Biden administration. Historic number of Americans have died of fentanyl because of the open border. So a secure border saves lives. No one can argue that.
Yeah.
When President Trump had 90% less people coming, how many women weren't being sexually assaulted? How many aliens didn't die making that journey? How many Americans didn't die from drug overdoses because the border was locked down? So secure borders save lives, and that's what we're going to push.
Regarding unaccompanied children and sex trafficking and the exploitation of those kids, what do you expect to find when you get into that position as border czar? Is there a lot more information that you think is going to be discovered about what exactly has happened to these young people?
We need to have access to everything.
Yeah.
ORR is done, Office of Refugee Resettlement. We're going to need the records of what sponsors these children are released to. Many whistleblowers from ORRs already said that sponsors weren't all fingerprinted. The identifications weren't always verified. So it's going to be a hard job. Out of all the three things, that I'm leading, the border, the immigration, deportation, and the children are going to be the most difficult because you and I and most adults, all adults have a footprint, digital footprint. We own a home, own a car, we pay bills, we pay utilities, we have credits. So we all can be found.
Yeah.
Children don't have that kind of footprint, which means we got to use a footprint, digital footprint of the sponsors, but the records are poor and are not existing. It's going to make them harder. But what we're going to find is many of these children, when we find them, are going to be in forced labor. Some will be in forced sex trafficking, sex slavery. Not all of them. Some will be safe, but we got to find these children, make sure they are safe and rescue, because many of them are living a life of hell, and we got to rescue these children. We'll deal with the immigration consequences after the fact, but right now we got to save these children. Find them and save them.
And we're, like you said, we're literally talking about hundreds of thousands of kids here that we don't know where they are. So if they don't have that footprint, what does step one look like in actually finding these kids? Well,
there's ways. I'm not going to discuss on air because it's law enforcement sensitive. We have our ways and our methods to do that. But one of the things we're going to do is count on American people. Parents across the country have an innate ability to recognize when something's not right with a child.
Yeah.
So we're going to ask people to see something, say something, give us some leads. You may know where some of these children are at. You may have friends that know that where some of these children were placed, and looking for the public's help. We deputize every American citizen to help us rescue these children. So there'll be more coming on that, but we're going to reach out to the communities. We're going to reach out to the private sector who's done a lot of this work already, and make it a partnership with the private sector.
Yeah. We know that there's a lot that we don't know about what happened under the Biden administration when it comes to conversations that were had about the border behind closed doors, money that was funneled into NGOs that really allowed for this crisis to take place. Are those things going to come out? Is information going to come out?
Look, all that stuff will be investigated, right? Yeah. We know what role did the UN play of immigration. What role did they play? What role did the NGOs play? Were they involved in coordinating? Were they complicit in international illegal immigration? How did the NGOs get funded? Mm-hmm. Who funded them? How was that money spent? So all of this will be looked at with the new administration to make sure that American people have the truth and see what happened to their tax dollars and why this happened. Why did they choose to unsecure the border on purpose?
Yeah.
What was the reason behind that? So all that's going to be looked at.
I know that there's going to be a number of executive orders that are signed on day one, including those having to deal with the border and immigration. What executive orders would you like to see the president sign on day one?
Well, look, I think people are going to be pleased with executive orders he is going to sign. I'm familiar with many of them, but I'm not going to get ahead of the president on that. But I think we go back to what was successful, right? On the Trump administration, we had the most secure border in my lifetime. So we go back to remain in Mexico, third safety country agreements, end catch and release, continue building that wall. Things that we proved work. We had the most secure border in my lifetime because of the President Trump and what he's done with out-of-the-box thinking. And they were game changers. Remain in Mexico was a game changer. Yeah. After about 60 days, people stopped giving the criminal cartels everything they've ever had in their life, or everything they've owned, to be smuggled into the United States. And after they saw they weren't being released into the United States during the Remain in Mexico, they stopped coming. And when they stopped coming, they stopped spending their life savings giving it to the criminal cartels. They stopped dying entering the country. They stopped being sexually assaulted entering this country. Cartels sells them a bag of goods. We'll get you to the United States and claim asylum, but they never tell them that 90% of those asylum claims end up with an order removal. So I suspect what you're going to see is President Trump dusting off a lot of what we did in the first administration because they were proven effective and put them back in place.
Yeah. And even those that under the Biden administration have received those removal orders, correct me if I'm wrong, but we know a lot of those folks, they're still here. They never
we got
left.
1.4 million right now illegal aliens who had due process at great taxpayer expense and were ordered removed and didn't leave. They became a fugitive. And I say this, the people that are saying this is a terrible, terrible operation, it's inhumane, whatever. I hear it all. You can't demand the right to claim asylum and see a judge. You can't demand the right to due process. And at the end of that due process, a judge makes the decision. You got to uphold those decisions. If we don't, then what the hell are we doing? If the due process doesn't mean anything, if the final decision of the courts isn't handed down and executed, then what are we doing? Yeah. You might as well just shut down immigration courts because the judge's orders don't mean anything. Take the border patrol off the border because there's no consequences. So no, you can't demand or create historic illegal immigration crisis and not follow through with the decisions. You want to see a judge? We'll make that happen. You want to claim asylum? We'll make that happen. But at the end of that game, when when a judge orders them removed, we have to remove them. That's what the law requires.
Yeah, and that's ICE's job. And that's what you have promised is going to happen under this administration. What do you expect to see a year from now? Where are we going to be at? What's the situation going to look like?
I think we're going to take a lot of hate. We're going to be sued every day, numerous times. I think you'll see the left try to control the media. They're going to show the first crying female, first crying child and say how inhumane we are. But they won't talk about 340,000 children that they've failed to take care of. They're not going to talk about the young women who have been murdered in this country at the hands of criminal cartels. They're not going to talk about the hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children. You want to talk about family separation? They buried their children because their children were killed by a member of a criminal cartel or someone that's not supposed to be here. They'll tell one side of the story. They'll try to vilify us, but they're not going to stop us from doing our job. I don't care what the media says about me. If they saw what I saw in 34 years, saw the tragedies I've dealt with in 34 years, they would certainly understand me. They may not still like me, but there's a reason why we do what we do. Yeah. I'm tired of women being raped, making that journey. I'm tired of dead children. I'm tired of women and children being sex trafficked. On this administration, sex trafficking is up 600% of women and children. We have a record number of people on the terrorist watch list being arrested. Historic record, 3,500% increase. Record number of Americans dying of fentanyl. We got a record number of cartel members that have entered this country. You know, the criminal cartels in Mexico are making more money than they've ever made in smuggling aliens, trafficking in women and children, and moving dope. So hate all you want. Push the misinformation out all you want. We're not going to slow down. We're not going to go away. We're going to get this done.
over 30 years of service for you, of working to secure the border, of working to protect the border. Many people wouldn't fault you for saying, I've seen it all. I've been in the dirt and the muck of it. I want to kick my feet up. I want to take a break from it all. Why? Why are you coming back?
Because we got a problem. The border is the biggest national security vulnerability this nation has seen because we got over 2 million gotaways. Who are they? We know over 2 million people enter this country illegally, weren't arrested, weren't vetted. We don't know who they are, where they came from. We also know that there's a record number of people on terrorist watch lists that have been arrested under this administration. They arrested more people on terrorist watch lists last month than we did under 4 years of President Trump. 4 years under President Trump, we had 14. They have more than that in a month. There's a 3,500% increase on people on terrorist watch lists. Christopher Wray, who I'm not pals with and don't respect a lot of what he's said and done, even he agrees the southwest border has become a national security vulnerability. The intelligence community has made it clear that there are threats inside the United States that came across that border. There are terrorist cells within this country. So you can't have strong national security if you don't have border security. We didn't know what's coming in, who's coming in, where it's coming in. So I love this country. Like you said, I started it for 34 years. The border's broken. We fixed it once before. We're going to come back and fix it again. This time we're going to finish the job. Then I can finally retire, knowing that I served my country and we got this country a safer place. And by doing so, secure border saves lives. When you have a secure border and 90% less people are coming, less people are being raped, less people are dying. So that's why I'm coming back. And it's the second time I come out of retirement for President Trump. I plan on this being my last. So we're going to get this job done that I can retire and know that I served my country honorably. And again, a lot of people out there despise me and the work I do, but I don't care. I'm going to come back and it's the right thing to do. Saving lives is the right thing to do.
Have you spoken with President Trump specifically about the wall and his plans for adding to the wall?
We won't add to the wall. The wall works. Every place they built a border barrier, illegal migrations went down, illegal drug flow went down. But what people don't talk about, the wall also saves lives. And what I mean by that, the most vulnerable, those that come across the border, are the women and children. Yeah. Women and children can't get over that wall pretty much, which means they're going to go to a place where there's not a wall. And what's waiting on them? The men and women of the border patrol are going to deal with this humanitarian crisis, take care of their health crisis, which many are in bad shape when they get here. So it saves lives. So no, we're going to finish the wall.
A lot of American families over the past several years have lost loved ones to fentanyl at the hands of illegal aliens, whether in vehicle crashes or at the physical hands, in the case of individuals like Laken Riley, Rachel Morin. What is your message to those families that have experienced firsthand the tragedy of this open border crisis?
Well, look, your heart breaks for them because their children should still be alive. If President Trump was president the last 4 years, the man that killed Laken Riley would have been detained and arrested in New York. When he was arrested in New York City for endangerment to the child, if it wasn't this administration and wasn't the priorities of ICE, you can't arrest an illegal alien that should be convicted of a serious crime, he would have been taken into custody. He would never got to Georgia to commit that crime. So help is coming. You got President Trump coming, who's, again, unprecedented in his success to secure the border. So help's coming. Too late for them. But they can rest assured that once we secure that border, less bad guys get in and less of this stuff will happen. So more families be spared of the terrible, terrible tragedy they're dealing with, and they'll deal with the rest of their lives. I've met hundreds of angel moms and dads, and I remember every single story, and I'll never forget those stories. And we're doing this for them in a major way because the left keeps talking about the Trump family separation, but no one talks about the thousands of separations that have occurred. You want to talk about separation? They bury their children. That's a permanent separation. So help's coming, and hopefully we can save more families from dealing with tragedies like they've dealt with.
Yeah. Mr. Homan, thank you for your time. Thank you for your service to our country. Appreciate the work that you're preparing to do.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Subscribe to get the news the legacy media won't tell you and only the Daily Signal can bring to you.